Welcome to this programming tutorial. In today's tutorial, we're going to look at files and how we can use text files for storage, a useful technique in programming. So first things first, I've created a Python file here, and I've also got a text file over here that has a bunch of different sayings. Now this text file is located in the exact same location, IGCSE Computer Science folder, as this file. The location's important. So how do we read or write to a text file? Well, first and foremost, we need to store the file into a variable. In this case, I'm just going to call a variable called file, and we're going to make that equal open. Now, open is a subroutine that will open a text file. In this case, it takes two parameters. The first parameter is the location of the text file. Because it's in the same location, I can just put textfile.txt over here. The second parameter is the mode, whether we want to read, write, or append to our text file. Let's start with the basics. Reading. If I put R over here, it means that we're going to read a text file. Note, at the moment, nothing's going to happen. Well, good practice whenever you're writing a program is that when you've opened a text file, because this will technically open the text file, at some point you're going to want to close it. So I'm going to do file.close, which is another subroutine or method at the end here, so I don't forget. Now in between, I'm going to do something with the text file. In this case, I want to read the text file. So to read a text file, all we're going to do here is we're going to use three types of subroutines. The first one's the most basic, print file.read. If I run this program, this will read the entire contents of my text file. I can also use file.readLine. Now if I use file.readLine, it shows me that I've read only the first line. How do I get more than one line? Now you might think that this is like where you put the index or the line number, but you'd be wrong. The way we do it is we just keep printing read line over and over again. So what does this tell you? Every time it reads a line in the file, it'll jump to the next line. That's important to remember because it's how it works. We also notice that we've got these weird spacings in between. This is because we've got a new line after every single line. How can we get rid of these? Well, a new line is really just white space, and Python has a special method or subroutine that we can use to remove any white space, and we're going to attach it to the end of this read line. The method is .rstrip. Don't have to have anything in there, and let's put that across all of them here. What rstrip will do is it will remove any of the new lines or white spaces. Notice it first applies the read line subroutine to file, and then it applies the rstrip to the answer for this. It does it in order of the dots. So read line will read a line and then skip to the next one. Rstrip will remove the white space. The last one we have is this one here. Let's say I want to store everything in a list. Well, I can do lines equals file.read lines. This is different from read line because we have an S now. And what's cool about this is if I print out line, I get an error because line is not defined because I called it lines with an S. But I get the entire contents inside a list. Notice that they all have the new line character. We would have to specify rstrip over here, which actually I don't believe will work, but we'll test it anyway. Yeah. We'll actually have to run through every item of lines and remove the n, the /n, to get rid of it. Now this is reading a text file. How can we write to a text file? Well, instead of R, let's use W. And instead of read lines, let's do file.write. And let's write hello world over here. Now what do you think will happen when I run the program? Let's run it and we'll see. There we go, we've got no errors. And when I go to my text file, it's removed everything. What write does is write will do two things actually. It'll either overwrite everything in a text file with whatever you put inside here, and you'll notice by this a bunch of times, it will in fact add it onto each other. But if I open and close it twice, I only get one instance of it because this one has overridden this one. Every time you open a file, it'll create a new instance of it. The other thing it'll do is if this file does not exist, .write with the W here will create a brand new text file. Now what about the last one I was mentioning? A. A stands for append. This is when you want to create most lines of in the text file, but you don't want to override things. So if I do this a couple of times, what you'll notice is it adds it onto my text file instead of removing it. And I can also use a special character for \n to insert new lines in my text file. So we've looked at how to read a text file, we've looked at how to write to a text file, and how to append a text file. Now, what if you want to actually go through the text file, as in run through it line by line? Well, let's go back to the beginning here. And in this case, I'm just going to specify hello world in each line, but let's give it a number on each line so we know the line numbers as well. Well, let's switch this to R for read, and we're going to do file.read line over here. That will read one line, but we want to run through it. We want to iterate through the file. So what we can do instead is we can use an iterative loop or a for loop or count controlled iteration to run through it. So we can say for line in file, we're going to print line. And let's do R strip here to remove any white space. There we go. So by doing for line in file, we're going to run through every line of a text file. And in this case, we're going to remove the white space, because if we don't do that, we end up with an extra padding or extra spacing between the lines. Now, there's actually a good shortcut or a preferred or recommended way of running through files in Python, and that's using a context manager. We can actually use a special command or a special line in Python that's written like this. With open, again, textfile.txt with, let's do reading this time, as file. This context manager allows us to go through or iterate through the entire text file, or sorry, not iterate through, but to open the text file, and it will automatically close it at the end. So you don't have to worry about opening and closing. Let's do something over here. We'll do for line in file, and we're going to print out line with R strip again. Notice it does the exact same thing as before, but in this context, I don't have to close the text file. This will automatically do that once I've finished all the stuff that is inside this context manager. It's a special way of doing things in Python, so you can write through or read through all the text files. So just to clarify, I go back a bit. This is the same as this. The difference is, this one you should put file.close at the end. This one you don't have to. Thank you for watching this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful.